most people searching for the cheapest countries to live abroad land on the same short list. Portugal, Thailand, Mexico. And yes, those countries genuinely offer a lower cost of living than the United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom. But the full picture is considerably more interesting than that. There are destinations where a Western retiree or remote worker can live comfortably, in a decent apartment, eating well, with access to good healthcare, for well under $1,500 a month. Some of them sit inside the European Union. Some offer legal tax rates that are nearly flat. A few have visa pathways so simple they barely feel like bureaucracy. And as you'll see, our top pick offers something the others simply cannot match. We've pulled together 12 destinations that genuinely deliver on the promise of affordable international living. These aren't hypothetical budget scenarios built around eating street food every night and never leaving the apartment. These are realistic, sustainable monthly budgets for people relocating from Western countries who still want a decent quality of life. Keep in mind, the figures presented here are approximations meant to give you a sense of the cost of living. Always verify with up-to-date sources before making any decisions. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Number 12, Sofia, Bulgaria. Sofia sits in the Western Balkans, ringed by the Vitosha mountain, and it carries a particular energy that blends post-Soviet grit with genuine modern ambition. The city has grown fast over the past decade, attracting a young tech workforce and a small but growing expat population, drawn largely by one thing: it is exceptionally affordable by European standards. Bulgaria joined the Schengen area in March 2024, which changed the calculus for many expats. Moving around Europe from Sofia is now considerably easier, and that matters for retirees who want flexibility. On top of this, Bulgaria operates a flat 10% income tax rate, the lowest in the entire EU. Furthermore, the country has invested heavily in broadband infrastructure, making it a practical base for remote workers and digital nomads. Monthly costs in Sofia run from around $900 to $1,200 all in for a single person living reasonably well. Rent for a one-bedroom in the city center sits somewhere between $450 and $750. Entry-level property starts at roughly $70,000, going up to around $150,000 for something in a better location or condition. For residency, Bulgaria offers a long-stay D visa based on passive or pension income of approximately €1,800 per month, which converts to a one-year residence permit. On the downside, the Cyrillic alphabet is a genuine barrier. Signage, menus, and official documents are all in a script most Western arrivals have never encountered, and the learning curve is steeper than people expect. Winters are also legitimately cold, with temperatures regularly hitting -5°C. Number 11, Puglia, Italy. Puglia is the long heel of Italy's boot, a sun-baked southern region that faces both the Adriatic and the Ionian Sea. The cities of Lecce and Ostuni have become two of the more talked-about destinations for European expats in recent years, and for good reason. Lecce in particular is sometimes called the Florence of the South for its Baroque architecture, and it has a genuinely pleasant, walkable character that larger Italian cities have long since lost. The lifestyle here is Mediterranean in the truest sense. Slow meals, markets, whitewashed towns on hilltops, coastline within easy reach. Moreover, Puglia benefits from one of Italy's more practical tax incentives. Foreign pension income is taxed at a flat 7% rate in towns with fewer than 20,000 residents, which covers the majority of the region. Trulli, the conical stone houses unique to the Vale d'Itria, can still be found for under €100,000, though that window is narrowing. Monthly costs run from around $1,300 at the lower end to closer to $1,900 for a more comfortable lifestyle. Rent for a one-bedroom in the center of Lecce or Ostuni sits between $600 and $1,000. For those buying, entry-level property starts at roughly $80,000. Residency in Italy for non-EU nationals requires the elective residency visa, which demands proof of passive income of approximately €31,000 per year. The honest downside is that rural infrastructure in the south of Italy is noticeably thinner than in the north. Train connections are slower and less frequent. Hospitals in smaller towns are adequate but not exceptional. And if you visit the Salento beaches in July or August, be prepared for crowds that feel completely at odds with the tranquil image the region sells the rest of the year. Number 10. Da Nang and Hoi An, Vietnam. Vietnam's central coast is one of the genuinely underrated pockets of Southeast Asia for expat living. Da Nang is a mid-sized city with a long beach, improving infrastructure, and a relatively low-key pace by regional standards. Hoi An, about 30 kilometers south, is a UNESCO-listed ancient town of lantern-lit streets, tailors, and excellent food. Between the two, there is a lifestyle on offer that punches well above its price point. The numbers here are compelling. A single person can live comfortably in this region for somewhere around $900 to $1,100 a month all in. Rent for a one-bedroom in the center comes in between $400 and $700. Property, if you're considering it, is priced from around $80,000, though this comes with a serious legal caveat that applies to the entire Vietnamese market. Foreigners cannot own land in Vietnam outright. Full stop. What's available is a 50-year leasehold on apartments or structures, not the underlying land itself. That is a fundamental distinction that anyone considering property here needs to understand clearly. The visa situation adds another layer of complexity. Vietnam has no formal retirement visa. Most long-term expats cycle through 1 to 3 month tourist visas with periodic border runs, or they arrange business or investor visa categories. It requires creativity and tolerance for administrative uncertainty. For those who can work around that, the lifestyle quality relative to cost is hard to beat in this part of the world. Number 9. Boquete, Panama. Boquete is a small mountain town in Panama's Chiriqui Highlands, sitting at about 1,200 meters elevation. It is coffee country, surrounded by cloud forest, and it has a climate that most visitors from the American Southeast or Western Europe find immediately appealing. Temperatures sit between 16 and 24 degrees Celsius year-round. There is no summer heat to escape from, no cold winter to endure. The North American retiree community here is well established and visible. English is widely understood in the expat circles. The social infrastructure around retirement living is genuinely one of the better organized in Central America. On top of this, Panama uses the US dollar as its currency, which removes exchange rate anxiety entirely for American retirees. Monthly costs in Boquete sit between roughly $1,200 and $1,800 for a comfortable expat lifestyle. Rent for a one-bedroom in the center runs from $600 to $1,000. Property starts at around $150,000 on the lower end and climbs to $300,000 for anything established. The residency pathway is the Pension Adu program, one of the oldest and most respected retirement visa frameworks in the Americas. It requires a verifiable pension income of at least $1,000 per month and comes with a notable package of discounts on healthcare, entertainment, and transport. That said, Boquete is a small town, and that is both its appeal and its limitation. International flight access requires a connection through Panama City. Half the year brings heavy rainfall, which some find manageable and others find oppressive. Number 8. Chiang Mai, Thailand. Chiang Mai sits in the mountainous northwest of Thailand, about 700 kilometers from Bangkok, and it has been on the expat radar long enough that its reputation almost undersells it. The infrastructure here is genuinely strong for the price. Fast internet, modern private hospitals with English-speaking staff, excellent food, and a cost of living that makes most Western cities look absurd by comparison. A single person can live well here for somewhere between $900 and $1,200 a month. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the city center sits between $350 and $700. Property, if you're buying a condo, starts around $60,000. Healthcare quality relative to cost is one of Chiang Mai's clearest advantages over comparable cities in other regions. Thailand's visa landscape opened up notably in 2024 with the introduction of the Destination Thailand Visa, a 5-year multi-entry option requiring proof of $14,000 in savings. For those aged 50 and above, the Retirement Visa, formerly the OA, remains available with either $24,000 deposited in a Thai bank account or a verifiable pension of around $1,800 per month. The long-term resident visa is a 10-year option but requires $80,000 in annual income, which places it out of reach for many. On the downside, foreigners cannot own land outright in Thailand. Condos can be held in a foreigner's name, but houses and the land beneath them cannot. Beyond that, the hot season between March and May is severe, and agricultural burning in the region sends air quality indicators into genuinely unhealthy territory for several weeks each year. Number 7. Tbilisi, Georgia. Georgia, the country, not the state, is one of the more genuinely surprising relocation stories of the past 5 years. Tbilisi, the capital, is a city of balconied old-town architecture, an extraordinary food and wine culture, and a hospitality tradition that is not merely marketing. It is also, from a practical standpoint, one of the easiest places on earth for a Western national to simply arrive and stay. Citizens of more than 95 countries can enter Georgia and remain visa-free for up to 1 year. That figure is not a typo. 1 full year, without any visa application, without any bureaucratic pre-approval, and it is renewable via a brief border run. For longer-term stays, property purchase or business registration opens additional pathways. Monthly costs in Tbilisi are genuinely low. All-in living, including rent, food, transport, and utilities, runs from around $800 to $1,100 per month. Rent for a one-bedroom in the center sits between $400 and $700. Entry-level property starts at roughly $60,000. For those running any kind of freelance or self-employed income, the individual entrepreneur scheme taxes sole proprietors at just 1% on turnover up to approximately $155,000, which is among the most favorable tax structures available anywhere. The honest caveats here are worth taking seriously. Georgia is not an EU member and is not on a credible path to membership in the near term. Regional tensions tied to its proximity to Russia are a background reality, not a daily concern for most expats, but a factor worth weighing. The Georgian script is also demanding, and outside expat circles, Russian remains more commonly spoken than English. Number 6. Punta Cana and Bávaro, the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is best known globally as a resort destination, which is partly the problem and partly the point. Punta Cana and Bávaro, the coastal eastern corridor, have year-round Caribbean weather, direct flights from the United States, Canada, and multiple European cities, and a cost of living that undercuts comparable Caribbean destinations considerably. The residency pathway here is one of the faster ones in the Americas. The Pensionado program requires a monthly pension income of $1,500, and the rentista category requires $2,000 per month in passive income. What is particularly notable is the timeline. The Dominican Republic offers one of the fastest routes from residency to citizenship in the entire Americas, achievable in approximately 2 years from initial residency. For those interested in a second passport, that figure deserves serious attention. Monthly costs in the Punta Cana corridor sit between around $1,200 and $1,800 for a realistic expat budget. Rent for a one-bedroom ranges from $600 to $1,100. Property starts at roughly $100,000 and climbs to $250,000 for something in a resort-adjacent area. The downside is real though. The resort zone creates a bubble effect, and stepping outside it brings a notably different experience of the country, one that not all expats are prepared for. Hurricane season runs from June through November, and while modern construction in resort areas is generally robust, that is not a risk to take lightly when choosing a primary residence. Number 5. Abruzzo, Italy. Abruzzo is the region that sits east of Rome, bordering the Adriatic coast and backing up against the highest peaks in the Apennine Mountains. It is, by most measures, Italy's most underrated region for expat relocation. The landscape is dramatic without being remote. The Adriatic coast is accessible in under 90 minutes from many interior villages. Gran Sasso, the highest peak in the Apennines, looms over the interior. The numbers here are among the most compelling in this entire list for anyone interested in Italy. Entry-level property in hilltop villages starts at around $40,000, and there are genuinely livable houses available under €50,000 in towns qualifying for the 7% flat tax on foreign pension income. That combination of low property cost and low ongoing tax burden is rare inside the EU. Monthly costs in Abruzzo run from roughly $1,100 to $1,600 all in. Rent for a one-bedroom sits between $450 and $800. Residency is accessed via the same elective residency visa that applies across Italy, requiring documented passive income. The region does carry earthquake risk. This is a factual geological reality of the Central Apennines, not a reason to dismiss Abruzzo, but a factor that influences where you buy and what you buy. The 2009 L'Aquila earthquake reshaped a generation's thinking about building standards here. Modern construction standards are considerably stricter now, but older rural structures require due diligence. Rural connectivity, as with Puglia, is thinner than in northern Italy. Number 4. Cluj-Napoca, Romania. Cluj-Napoca, often simply called Cluj, is Romania's second city and arguably its most dynamic. It sits in the Transylvania region, which surprises some visitors who expected something more Gothic and found instead a lively university city with a strong tech sector, a high density of English speakers by Eastern European standards, and a cost of living that remains well below EU norms despite Romania's growing profile. Romania is a full EU member, which matters for those holding EU passports and for the broader legal and political stability of living there long term. The country operates a flat 10% income tax rate. Moreover, Cluj in particular has developed a genuinely cosmopolitan character, with good restaurants, cultural events, and a functioning public transport system. Monthly costs in Cluj sit between around $900 and $1,200 all in. Rent for a one-bedroom in the center runs from $450 to $750. Property starts at roughly $80,000 and goes to $160,000 for something well located. Residency options include a digital nomad visa requiring foreign income of approximately €3,950 per month, and a long-stay visa pathway specifically for retirees. On the downside, Romanian bureaucracy is genuinely heavy. Administrative processes that take days in Western Europe can take weeks or months here. And winters are harsh. Cluj sits in a continental climate where January temperatures regularly drop well below freezing. Number 3. Kuala Lumpur and Penang, Malaysia. Malaysia is one of the few countries in Southeast Asia where the stars genuinely align for a certain type of expat. English is widely spoken across government, business, and daily life. Infrastructure in both Kuala Lumpur and Penang is modern and functional, with fast internet, reliable public transport, and healthcare that meets international standards. And critically, Malaysia is one of the rare Asian countries where foreigners can own freehold property outright, without the leasehold limitations that complicate ownership in Vietnam or Thailand. Monthly costs here land between roughly $1,000 and $1,400 for a comfortable lifestyle. Rent for a one-bedroom in central KL or Penang sits between $500 and $900. Entry-level property for buyers starts around $120,000. However, the Malaysia My Second Home program, known as MM2H, was dramatically restructured in 2023. Older guides floating around online still cite the previous requirements, which were far more accessible. The current program requires a fixed deposit of approximately 1.5 million Malaysian ringgit, equivalent to roughly $320,000, alongside proof of monthly offshore income of RM40,000. Those are not figures designed for budget retirees. Anyone researching MM2H should treat any source predating 2023 with real skepticism. On top of the visa complexity, Malaysia is equatorial. There are no seasons. It is warm and humid year-round, which many people find energizing and others find exhausting. That is not a minor consideration for people spending the rest of their lives there. Number 2. Paphos, Cyprus. Cyprus is an EU member state in the eastern Mediterranean, with warm winters, a British colonial legacy that left behind English as a practical second language, and a legal and financial framework that has long attracted international residents and investors. Paphos, on the island's western coast, is the most popular destination for British and Northern European expats. The old harbour, the archaeological sites, the cliffside coastline, and around 330 days of sunshine per year make it genuinely pleasant as a base. Furthermore, Cyprus operates a non-domicile tax regime that can be highly favorable for those with foreign income sources, and it sits within the EU legal framework that many retirees find reassuring. Monthly costs in Paphos run from around $1,500 to $1,900 for a comfortable lifestyle, putting it at the higher end of this list. Rent for a one-bedroom sits between $700 and $1,100. Property is notably more expensive here than elsewhere on this list, with entry-level purchases starting around $180,000 and going to $320,000 for established areas. Permanent residency by investment requires a property purchase of at least €300,000 alongside proof of €50,000 per year in passive income. The downside is twofold. Cyprus is a politically divided island. The northern third is administered by a separate government recognized only by Turkey, and the border situation is a real complexity that buyers and residents need to understand before committing. Beyond the political dimension, summer heat in Paphos regularly exceeds 38 degrees Celsius. For arrivals from northern climates, the July and August heat is something to experience before committing to, not simply read about. Number 1. San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. San Miguel de Allende sits at 1,900 meters in Mexico's Bajío Highlands, about 4 hours northwest of Mexico City. It is a UNESCO World Heritage colonial city, all cobblestone streets, Baroque churches, and brightly colored facades. And it carries the deepest, most established English-speaking expat community of anywhere in Mexico. The climate here is the one that most retirement destination marketing promises and very rarely delivers. Daytime temperatures sit between 18 and 25 degrees Celsius across virtually the entire year. There is no monsoon season to shelter from, no bitter winter, no oppressive tropical humidity. It is genuinely one of the most comfortable year-round climates in the Americas, full stop. Monthly costs for a comfortable expat lifestyle in San Miguel range from around $1,500 to $2,000. Rent for a one-bedroom in the center runs from $800 to $1,500, reflecting the gentrification that decades of expat demand have brought to the market. Property starts at roughly $200,000 on the lower end, going to $450,000 for something with the colonial character most people move here seeking. Residency is through Mexico's temporary or permanent resident pathways, which are based on income or savings thresholds and are broadly accessible relative to comparable programs in Europe or Southeast Asia. The honest caveat is this: San Miguel has been discovered thoroughly. Expat saturation has pushed prices well above what they would be in a comparable Mexican city without the international profile. For those who want a quieter, more local experience of Mexico, there are other cities that deliver that. But for the combination of climate, community, culture, colonial architecture, and that specific quality of expat social infrastructure, nowhere else in Mexico quite replicates it. The prices reflect that reality. And there you have it. 12 of the most genuinely affordable countries and cities for living abroad in 2025, counted down from number 12 to number 1. From Sofia's flat tax efficiency at the base of this list to the highland perfection of San Miguel at the top, each of these destinations offers something real for people looking to stretch their income without shrinking their life. If you found this useful, consider subscribing. We cover destinations, visas, property markets, and cost of living breakdowns every week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.